The Supreme Court took a step this week towards giving cohabiting couples equal rights with those who are married. It ruled that Ms Brewster, whose partner died before they got married, was unlawfully discriminated against by the local government pension scheme. It refused to pay Denise a widow's pension because her late partner had not nominated her to get it. But married people didn't have to be nominated for the pension and other benefits to be paid. The court said that was unlawful and unjustified discrimination under the European Convention on Human Rights. Denise Brewster's lawyer is Gareth Mitchell, a partner at Dighton Pearce Glynn.
The rule that was being challenged was a requirement that even if you could show that you were in a long-term cohabiting relationship, you also needed to have completed with your deceased partner a declaration form. The point being that for people who are married, there was no requirement to complete that form. For people who are cohabiting, there was a requirement, and so few people actually got round to completing it, which wasn't a problem until, as in Denise's case, her partner unexpectedly died, and then she found herself excluded from the benefit of all the pension contributions he'd made during his career.
Now, this was one case about one scheme. What effect will it have? Will this apply now to everybody in the Northern Ireland pension scheme?
Immediately, it will benefit everyone in the local government pension scheme in Northern Ireland. Interestingly, when Denise won her case in the High Court in Northern Ireland, the local government pension schemes in England, Wales and Scotland removed the requirement, but it remains in lots of other UK public sector pension schemes. So, for example, you'll find the requirement in the NHS scheme, the teachers scheme, the civil service scheme, for example. And all of those schemes will need to review whether or not to maintain it. And if they continue with it, it's very likely that people will bring similar cases, and I think those requirements will also be found to be unlawful.
So it will affect potentially millions of people in the whole of the UK in public sector pension schemes where they have to fill in a form as well as live together.
Absolutely, and there's about 12 million people in public sector pension schemes in the UK, and now 1 in 6 couples are cohabiting couples, so it's a large number of people benefiting.
And what about the private schemes? Because there are still nearly 6,000 final salary pension schemes in the private sector. Will it be able to be used by people in those schemes as well?
Not directly, because this was a case brought under the Human Rights Act, and the Human Rights Act only applies to public bodies. Having said that, what we found is that there is also a gender discrimination aspect to this. So it's the woman in heterosexual relationships who is losing out. And so there may therefore be scope to challenge the requirements in the private sector schemes using the Equality Act, which does apply to them. And even if not, you would think that in modern society, people wouldn't want to operate pension schemes which are discriminatory, even if the Human Rights Act doesn't have to apply to that particular provider.
Gareth Mitchell. Well, live now to Brighton to talk to Jo Edwards. She's partner and head of family at law firm Forsters and until very recently chair of the family law group Resolution. Jo Edwards, we heard there this ruling will affect some pension schemes, but there are many other areas where there are different rules. Will the pressure be on to change those now?
I think potentially, Paul, it will, and this is a really significant ruling for cohabiting couples, although I wish to stress from the outset, not necessarily a step towards equal rights for cohabitants, which I know many feel strongly against, but an important step nonetheless. So the wider significance of this case really is that there could be fresh legal challenges in other areas where there is perceived to be discrimination against cohabiting couples. One obvious example of that is inheritance tax. So at the moment, inheritance tax laws allow married couples and civil partners an exemption from tax altogether, whereas cohabiting couples are only exempt up to £325,000. So because of this ruling, which effectively says there's got to be a right to equal treatment under Article 14, those sorts of things arguably could be looked at afresh. Capital gains tax also may come within the same heading.
I can't imagine the government doing this, though, without some pressure. Will that come, you think, from a court case?
Well, it's an interesting dichotomy at the moment. What we're seeing is judges who are having to move very quickly to keep up with society. Gareth himself mentioned the number of people cohabiting now is huge, and it's expected to double by 2032. So judges are making these decisions, are trying to keep up with modern society. But the reality is that government really needs to grapple with these issues and look at what the rights for cohabitants should be, both when those relationships end through separation and also when the relationship ends through the death of one of the parties.
Yes, I think that there are about 6.5 million cohabitants in about 3.25 million couples, so it is an awful lot of people, as you say. But talking of their rights, I had this tweet this morning. Kevin Chatfield tweeted me, "I've been with partner 21 years, longer than many people have been married, but no rights of a married couple." So he understands that, but of course many cohabitees don't, do they?
Well, that's a huge problem. And at the moment, one of the reasons that there are these difficulties is that people in a cohabiting relationship don't realise until it's too late, i.e. at the end of the relationship, that they have no rights at all. What resolution members see around the country are these couples coming to see them and effectively only discovering at that stage that there are no rights at all. And what limited rights there are based on this very complex patchwork of trusts law, property law, really require evidence of a couple's intention, which frankly, when a relationship transitions into cohabitation, people often don't think about. But because of this ignorance which exists, often they simply take no steps to regularise the position.
Joe Edwards, thanks very much. And perhaps if you are in that position, you could do what my Radio 4 colleague Steve Hewlett did when he was in hospital, fearing his death was imminent. He got married in his hospital ward to avoid those problems. Joe Edwards, again, thanks very much. That's it for today.